was extraordinary. This whole thing is extraordinary. I imagine a lot of people in this room right now are dealing with a lot of grief for a lot of reasons. I know I am. I also imagine a lot of people in this room are dealing with sleeplessness and physical discomfort, so it means a lot that everyone sort of came out here for Max. I flew here this morning from Florida, and I got on my plane around 5 o'clock and didn't sleep at all, and landed at LaGuardia. And I checked my phone, and I have this message from a total stranger, who a poet, but a stranger to me. I'd never interacted with them in any capacity. And they said, "I heard you were coming to New York today. Do you need a ride from the airport?" And I said, "I do." It happened that I did. It beats Ubering. So I said I did, and within a half hour he was there at the airport to pick me up. Big smile, probably mid-50s, burly New Yorker, and he's just talking to me about joy and he said, "I thought that I would be able to come here and perform a mitzvah by picking you up today. I stayed up all night, and I was so full of grief." And he said, this is the thing, he said that he stayed up all night watching the election and stuff, as we all did, and then he said, when the sort of horror of that became clear, came in with clarity, he took out his copy of Four Reincarnations, and he spent the night reading that, and he read it and reread it and reread it, and he couldn't be here tonight because he was leading a group of queer youth. He has like this support group for them, and so that's what he's doing right now instead of being here. But it's just, and I'm like shaking talking about it. I mean, it was like, it's, one more thing to thank Max for is this sort of opportunity to help us face grief in the face of, face grief with a sort of unforgiving grace, an absolutely unforgiving grace. I didn't know what I was going to talk about, and as soon as he said that to me, I knew what I was going to talk about. I'm going to read Max's poem called "Touching the Floor." That's one of my favorites in the collection. I touch my palms to the floor, and granite bowls surge up my arms and lock in my shoulders. Water flecks on my back, and my head is shaved by bladed cream. By then my time in my body is up, and it's time for my mind. It seeks wisdom, and the bulls fall into a well, their faces falling apart. I want to know what their last words are, but their lips are fading into the purple. I put my hands into the ground again, but bulls come only for the body and never for the mind. I used to want infinite time with my thoughts. Now I prefer to give all my time to a body that's dying from cancer. Oh, body, playmate of the kiln, darkener of sky and water, could you squeeze shut the little mouths talking my hands out of my body? I love that poem. I feel like that poem has the same sort of dreamlike textures to it that this day does. Different ways, but same sort of textures. The next poem, I'm going to read one more poem and then I'll cede the floor. This is a poem of mine, actually. This is a poem that I wrote when I was first, Milkweed sent me the PDFs of the book as soon as they had the finished versions of the PDFs of the book. And this was the first time I was going through and spending a lot of time with it, and I ended up writing a poem shortly thereafter, and Max and I were talking a lot at this period. And I wrote this poem. It's not a poem about Max ostensibly, but it is a poem in which Max appears. And it borrows some language from his poetry. And I sent it to Max, and he said, and I'm looking here to make sure I don't bungle the language. He said, "Not fetishy, your poem. I'm just there in your mind, being loved." And I love that so much. I think that Max is absolutely here with all of us right now in this moment, just in our minds being loved. You know, that is sort of where we carry him, and that is where if I wasn't wearing a jacket, you guys could see I have goosebumps right now talking about it. He just there in your mind being loved. I think about that all the time. But I was writing this series of poems called Portrait of the Alcoholic, and with and I've been writing this series of poems for a couple of years, and this turned out to be the final one in the series. It's called Portrait of the Alcoholic, Frozen in Block of Ice, and it's for Max, obviously. What we mean when we say immortal, bruised and blue-fleshed, loathsome as glass pulled from a child's mouth. Of course, freezing is terrible, but what's worse is this silence. Everything quiet as a bowl of fruit hardening under lava. Sometimes I think about my father's farm, sizzling and biosecure, his 10,000 ducks all laying dead white eggs. For fun, I imagine their beaks tugging out my hair, carrying away each tuft to soften their tiny beds. Years ago, I would blow up empty wine bags into pillows. Combing baby powder through my hair, I hiccup through the night, and in the morning, I drank milk to vomit myself well. What was it the skinny boy said as he shuffled politely off the gangplank? Something, something, adore me to sleep. It's a long drive into manhood, but such a short walk out. I spent so long shocking myself with my own carelessness, misnaming lovers and tripping over the homeless, until finally the world crushed me to ice, the way a fever crushes you to sleep. A body transacts, then expires, ghoulish as a raven's foot, heavy and wet as rained-on fur. Dear single-breasted archer of my dreams, I heartily endorse your grief. It's hard to remember your ribs connect to your backbone until the chill in your chest reaches around for your spine.